Hey, today I wanted to do a quick video about painting. Adding a custom paint job to a toy can add a bit of yourself to it. You can give a toy a cool new color scheme, repair some worn paint, or cover the patchwork you had to do to cover a giant blaster hole because you couldn't afford the alive version of character. Or you can use paint to bring a toy a little bit closer to a creature you saw in a movie. If you just want to try it out, you can grab a toy, start painting, and see where it takes you. However, if you have a specific idea in mind, then it's a good idea to plan it out. It can be important to choose the right paint, the right toy, and if it's something from a game or a movie, the right reference material. I'll cover all this stuff as we go along, but for now, let's go toy shopping. I went to a toy store after work to check and see if they had any good Transformer toys on the shelf. I didn't really find anything, but as I was walking away, I spotted something. An 18-inch Tyrannosaurus toy with chomp attack feature. Toys with a biting gimmick have always gotten to me. Just before my 4th birthday, my mom arrived at the babysitter's house with an early present for me. It was the toy Rancor monster from Return of the Jedi, also with chomping action. That toy was almost as big as me and I lost my mind. I still have it. Actually, I need to fix the shoulder again. It's built using a rubber band system and that design will always require some occasional maintenance. Maybe I'll make a video about it. Or a video about having to rebuild the chest of a beloved character, Hasbro. I know what you did to Ironhide and Optimus in 1986. You don't need to make me buy a toy to remember. What next? Toys of Spock in the reactor and Artax in the Swamp of Sadness? Anyway, since that birthday, I've had a severe weakness for giant biting monster toys, and this T-Rex hit right on that target. When I saw it was marked down from $35 to $15, there was no way I wasn't leaving with a new Tyrannosaurus toy. Besides, in all situations, a plastic dinosaur is the right answer. The paint job on this toy isn't bad. I actually really like it right out of the box. But I can make the paint a little bit closer to the high-end Jurassic Park toys, without having to pay $200. Finding good reference material is easy for this one. After all, it's probably the most famous imaginary Tyrannosaurus in the world, and there is no shortage of behind-the-scenes photos of the giant animatronic used in the original Jurassic Park movie. This is actually supposed to be a Jurassic World T-Rex, but I don't care. It's my plastic dinosaur, and in this house, his birth certificate says Isla Nublar 1993. With hard plastic toys, you can often just use some good acrylics and you'll be fine. Just try to avoid painting areas that will rub against other parts of the toy. All this being said, there are always exceptions. There are paints that don't bond well, and plastics that don't take paint at all. Your best bet is to paint a small area of the toy that you won't actually see that much, just to test out everything. On this, I did mask it off and use some spray paint on there as well. Spray paint is useful, but it can be iffy about curing and it can be a bit imprecise. I also used some enamel paints on this, like the little testers kind you use on model kits. And then I went in and used washers and airbrushing for the weathering. Now you see that this part here isn't painted. One, because it looks best as it is, but also if you're painting a flexible item, that can be really tricky. If the object moves, then the flexing can actually flake the paint off. There are paints that are designed to go on rubbers and other flexible materials, but I've had mixed results with that. Also, just on a side note, I made this thing functional, because my job is noisy, and you end up with a lot of fumes. So I installed a functional respirator and noise cancelling headphones and a bunch of other assorted nerd stuff because I'm an idiot. I also decided to make my own X-Wing squadron, the Fighting Lizard Monkeys. It's often a good idea to start with the broad strokes and gradually work your way down to the detail stuff. I'm going to tape off the teeth and then paint the underside and jaws. Next, I'll add some darker green to accent the shape of the legs and torso. Then I can paint the back brown, and finally paint some patterns on the back with a darker brown. You can do all of this stuff with a normal brush, but an airbrush can make things a lot easier, as long as you're okay with spending an hour cleaning out an airbrush later on. First thing we're going to do is lay down a bit of a base coat on this dinosaur. See how you get this color right here, and on the large animatronic, it goes all the way down, kind of up here. I don't know if it'll go that far, but I definitely want to extend it more than here and kind of blend it in a bit to the top. I'm going to use an airbrush to do that, so I've got to mix some paints to try to match that. One thing to remember if you're using acrylic paints, airbrush paints included, is that acrylic paints dry darker than they appear in the bottle. So what you're going to want to do is mix some of it, dab it on something, and then hold it up at the piece after it dries to make sure it matches. If you're airbrushing, always use a respirator or a mask, something. Even though acrylic paint is non-toxic, you still don't want a coating of it in your lungs. Wear it. Now I can move on to the details. I'll switch to a regular brush to apply a dark wash into the recessed areas. A wash is just paint that has been watered down. It flows so much that it sinks away from the raised surfaces and down into the crevices. If you really want to have a high contrast, gently wipe down the painted area so the wash only stays in the deepest parts. Next is the dry brushing, which is the exact opposite of a wash. You dip the brush in paint, but then wipe most of the paint off. Then you lightly brush the object so the bristles never reach down into the nooks and crannies. This allows you to highlight areas quickly. Using just washes and dry brushing, it was fast work to add color to the scales around the mouth, make the details around the brow scales pop, and accent different areas like the skin on the neck, legs, and torso. Then I just had to paint the eyes. Finally, I will add a layer of clear coat to protect the paint. This is the only time when I prefer to use spray paint. Satin or matte clear coat is very useful and sets almost immediately in sunlight. Just a warning, gloss clear coat isn't as cooperative. It takes longer to set and is pickier about how thick it is applied. Today we're using a movie as our color reference for this dinosaur. However, even though they have been dead for 65 million years, birds excluded, the way dinosaurs look is constantly changing. No, not like that. As we learn new things, a reconstruction of dinosaurs, including color, is altered. Even the T-Rex from Jurassic Park is considered outdated. The point is, we are still doing a lot of guessing when it comes to how we portray dinosaurs, so paint yours whatever color you want. Well, the real point of this was to let me have fun showing off more toys, but that doesn't make my previous statement any less valid. Now, back to something mildly productive. Here is my finished Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm really happy with it. I mean, I already loved the toy, so it was a low bar, but still. I hope this shows what a little paint can do. This took one afternoon, and the materials I used are readily available and affordable. You don't need expensive paints or an airbrush, although you can even get cheap airbrushes now if you're curious about them. Now, I have to go paint a red tie on Optimus Primal so he looks like Donkey Kong. Hasbro, Nintendo, come on. We can make this happen.